Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Talk with God in Prayer. I'm so sorry. Um, this is your host Harry. Today I actually have two special guests. Today we're going to have Robert and Pam. They're a really good friend of mine from church, and they're also missionaries. So, welcome Robert, welcome Pam. How you
Thank
guys doing?
you.
Ray.
Thank you.
Uh, so you guys been here in the States for a bit. I want to say, a few months right now.
A little over a year.
Okay, so tell a little bit about us, like let's start in the beginning, right? How do you guys met, and like what made you guys um what made you guys like feel like, okay, Christ is calling us to do missionary as well too? So let's start with how you guys met.
hmm I was born and raised here in Vancouver, Washington, and Robert was born and raised in Entebbe, Uganda. And back in 2012, I went over on a short-term mission trip to Uganda for 6 months, working at Calvary Chapel in Entebbe. And that's where Robert was working at the time. And I just was there for a 6 month internship with a mission training school. And so I gave my life, I was 24 years old. I gave my life to serve him for a year, figuring out what was next in the next season of my life, trying to figure out next career move. And so God called me to go to this training school for a year. So, but 6 months we spent on the field in Uganda. And so that is where I met Robert in 2012. But it wasn't until we started our relationship in 2013. But I came back and forth. In 2012 I was there, and then 2013 I went back to Uganda to lead a team. And so after I did my 6 month internship as a student, I was here back in the States for 5 months, and the organization sent me back to be a leader for the same organization for the interns that were going. And so in that time, God kind of gave me a vision to have a counseling center for the sexually abused. And as I was in the States, God was kind of shaping my heart of my vision. And I was looking for a female counselor to do ministry with me. But when I went back to Uganda in 2013, I knew Robert was a counselor. He worked at Calvary Chapel in Tebe, and so I just went to him as a friend because I knew of him from 2012. And we just started talking and kind of shared my ideas for what I wanted for Uganda. But little did I know our hearts were being knit together to do ministry. And so I went to him seeking for a lady to do ministry with me. I thought I'll be back in America raising the funds for the projects. But little did I know, God would call me to move full time to Uganda. So um, that 2013 we started dating, and then 2014 we got married here in the States. And so we this August we'll be married 11 years. And so that's kind of how I got to Uganda. Was another organization sent me there in the beginning, and then Robert was working at Calvary Chapel in Tebe. What were you doing at Calvary Chapel in Tebe?
Yeah, thank you. My wife narrated how we met. The sound is back.
There you go.
Yeah, she kind of gave a hint of exactly what was happening at that time. I was professionally, I got trained in HIV and AIDS counseling. So at that time when she came, the church had a medical ministry towards the hard to reach areas, where I led the team to go into the highlands, train people, test people of HIV and AIDS, and then those I found HIV positive, I could take them into our counseling team and then link them up for care and support. So that is something that I started doing since 2009 when I got my skills in counseling training. So by the time Pam came with a team, she found me doing that, and I realized she had a heart for my country, mostly for those souls that really I felt I was reaching out to, because I'm a member of the Red Cross back home and I oversee Red Cross in my community. Over 50,000 Red Cross members that are within my area of Entebbe that I oversee as a chairperson of the board there. So I've been in Red Cross for so many years, since 2000. So we used to go into the communities and phone these girls, that had been sexually abused. And I didn't know what to do about it. Of course, I could, with the team, talk about it and then do a little we could do, but I realized there was need for sustainability of the counseling. And when she was sharing about all this stuff, I just felt, with what she had, the heart she had to serve my country. And of course, I don't want to say it's just that led us to get married. She's a beautiful girl. And with a kindness and softness of heart, I just felt, she was the right person God had brought. We talked about how we would move this relationship further in addition to doing the ministry we both felt God had called us to do. And that kind of sparked, you know, us starting the ministry, Hope for Restoration Initiative.
And as we said, we've been married 11 years. We have 6 children. 3 of them we have fostered to adopt. The first one is 21, 19, and almost 18 next month. And then we have a 17-year-old Robert had before I met him. And we have a 9-year-old daughter together and a 1.5-year-old little boy. So we have 5 sons and 1 daughter. And so we are so blessed that God has given us abundant children just to love and take care of.
It's funny because Kayla and I, we dated when she was 14, I was 16. She went to Puerto Rico, put quotation. She would be like, no, but she went to Puerto Rico to babysit her nephew and niece, because her uncle used to run a camp in Puerto Rico. So she went there as a counselor, so to speak. But her and I started dating. We dated for like 2 years.
Mm.
And then I moved to North Carolina to get closer. But before I moved to North Carolina, I told her I knew. So I was 18 years old, and everybody was like, "No, dude, you have no idea. What do you want?" And I told her, I was like, I'm gonna marry you. I'm gonna marry you. We're gonna have kids, and I'm gonna be working with your dad. I honestly told her those 3 promises, and I gave her a promise ring. Of course, she sent it back. Long story short, I melted the promise ring, but we haven't seen each other for 10 years, and we didn't see each other. And I know that out of nowhere, she sent me a message, and she was in North Carolina, and she talked to me, and she wanted to apologize the way how things end up. So she went to Puerto Rico. And then 6 months later, I felt God was calling me to go to Puerto Rico. And she thought that I was moving over there for her. And I was like, no, get off of that cloud. I'm not going to move there for you. So chill with that. And as I'm over there, she's already been there for 6 months. And there's been missionary groups coming from the United States to Puerto Rico. And what the missionary basically was is helping people in the community, building houses, roof, whatever we had to do, even a camp. So, but she had her own ministry that she would start in a barrio, like in a community, so to speak. And she started with no kids, and then it was like over 50 kids in the afternoon. It was an after school program, and it was like it was a lot of kids. But I remember I was there. She didn't want to talk to me, and I don't. This is the funny thing. There's a group, and they said, "What do you want?" And she was like, "Oh, you can pray for the ministry." And they were like, "No, what do you want? Like, what do you really, really need?" And she goes, "A husband." So it is so funny because she's praying, they're praying. The next day, one of her interns got sick. So I was like, hey, I can go with you guys to the airport. I don't mind, because she was going to drop one of her other interns that she was coming back in Portland. So I was like, hey, I can go with you. She was like, no. And I said, okay, well, you don't have to be mean about it. But then she put in her heart, she said, okay, Lord, I said that I was going to be nice to him. As we're driving, I have no idea what was her conversation, because she's praying as we're driving. And I put my window down, and I said, Kayla, you got to pull to the side. And she pulls to the side, and I said, well, you got a flat tire. And she's like, can we make it to the airport like that? I was like, hey, you got a flat tire. Like, come on. So that's the thing. Like, she doesn't know how to change a flat tire. But the funny thing about it is at that moment, she looked up and she's like, I got your message. He will be the one. And we drove. I have no idea. I have sincerely have no idea. And then I know after we dropped her intern to the airport and we came back and we are waiting for the tire to get fixed. So we went to eat lunch. She said, hey, I got to talk to you. And that's what she told me. And she said, yeah, I've been kind of arguing with God. I didn't want to be with you. And I was like, okay. And she was like, he's telling me you're the one. So that's like the awesome part about it. And we will be married 10 years in 2 months.
Aw.
And we have 5 kids, not 6. So you guys got to Sola, she is our second daughter. She is adopted.
Okay.
And the best thing about her is that her adoption, her mom and dad, they live in Florida, and we got the call that she was born, and she was born 5 weeks before her due date. So we had to fly out. And as we're in the uh, hospital, I remember this was during COVID. The doctor asked, "What's her name?" And we said her name is Sola Grace. And they're like, "Okay." I said, "What does it mean?" And I said, "You're saved by grace and not by works." And the doctor started crying because it was like that fits on her. She was a premature baby. They had no idea that she was gonna like. They were like, "Dude, you guys gonna be here for like 2 months." Like sincerity, I was like, "Man, we cannot be here 2 months." We were there for 1 week. She gained her weight. She was growing. All her vitals was good. The placenta held all the drugs of mama. Like it didn't went to her system. And I was like, her name fits her.
Yeah.
Sola Grace. And she's almost 4 years old. A blessing, little healthy little girl. And yeah, I mean that's the best part
Wow.
about even adopting. And it's just knowing like, you came from God, basically.
Yep.
So
Yeah, and each of our sons have different unique stories how God has brought them our way, and it's just they have their testimony how they ended up in our arms, and it's just beautiful how God just designs families to be that way. It's not meant just to be our own children that we conceive, but other ones that God brings our way. So it's a beautiful blessing for sure.
yeah. Robert, do you play soccer?
When I was young, I tried to, but I didn't like being hit all the time, and falling, so I gave up.
Our boy,
Did
our
you
boy,
did you play soccer with the guys, with the boys?
Once in a while in the compound, yes, but for them, they are into it
they're
so much. They are
every
so,
night
yeah, every night, and some of them are playing
on teams.
on teams. One of them is paid to play. Is it basketball?
Volleyball.
Volleyball. One of our boys back home who is in the university. He's
Oh,
doing
nice.
nursing. They are into soccer so much, but I just didn't like the idea of being hit. And the other thing why I didn't concentrate so much into it, I never grew up with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Since when I was a child, I never grew up with neither my father or mother. And I became independent at a very young age. At 16, I had to look for my own rent, pay my tuition and also my clothing, my hospital. So all the privileges of my age, I couldn't, enjoy them because I had to grow to take care of the needs. So I didn't have the opportunity, to engage because that is the time I had to go maybe fishing. I had to go working so that I'm able to get some money to provide for my well-being. So
Because there's no public school there. Like there's no free
Yeah.
school in
Yeah.
Uganda. You have to pay. Like elementary to high school, you can pay for a term, and there's 3 terms in a year, about $600 per child.
Oh,
And
wow.
and so if you want them at a decent school, you can go to very government basic school and you can pay $150, $200, but the teachers, it's just really challenging there. And so if you want to be in a good school, you have to have the money.
So we're talking about $600 American money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah. And
It's
then
like a private school or something.
yeah, it's like yeah. And then you have all the requirements, uniforms, you have to pay for food, they need book bags, pencil. Yeah, you provide toilet paper, you provide the mops for the school, you provide pretty much everything for the
But
school.
also with the government schools that we have, there are those that the government, I think 10, 20, 15 years ago, the government started building schools for the kids, but you'll find that they don't have enough resources to really take care of these young ones. So if you want to prepare your child for a good education, you end up taking them to a good school. But like when I was growing up, because I'm now 45, so the times I was growing up, it was, you had to hustle. It was hard. I had to look for all these means so that I'm able to pay for my tuition. And at some point, I couldn't do it. I had to drop out of the school for 6 years to work out of high school to gain work, save, and then go back, which I did. I went, worked, saved, and then went back to school, pursued, and then I had to get my associates, in counseling and guidance, and majored in HIV and AIDS. So it was good. And, why do we do what we do? I don't know what your next question is for us.
That was actually gonna be what I said, that what it made you guys like the call, like you guys both felt like this is the call, we want to actually serve the Lord, right? Was it like Robert's life? Because I know why I served, and I actually have almost as similar as Robert, right? I didn't grow up with my mom and dad. I didn't see my dad for like 26 years. And then he was in my life for 2 months. He died of cancer. And my mom, well, she's here in the States. And I stay in touch with her, but I didn't grow, and I was in seven different foster house, so I was never like actually, you know, getting by a family. But I know that's what I felt like. I wanted to actually serve the Lord, and I wanted to adopt. So like, how would you guys would say is like, this is what we felt God was calling us to serve him? Like, what was the reason?
For me, as I was just doing my 6-month internship, I just saw, um, particularly in that season in 2012, that the girls just didn't have an advocate. They didn't have a mom to go home to after school and talk about life challenges, or talk about what your body's going through, or talk about being bullied, or talking about boy issues. And so for me, I wanted to be a safe place for the girls to be that listening ear, because moms were working 16 hours a day to get $4 so they could go get the rice and go get the beans for the next day. And so Uganda is a single mother country pretty much. Fathers are there, but they're pretty absent. And so I wanted to be that safe haven for girls to have, so they could just have a shoulder to cry on, have somebody to walk through and go through the victories, because the moms would come home exhausted, not having the time for their daughters. But then as we got married, then we saw it's not just girls, it's boys. And so the ministry has developed into a fully operating counseling center. But in the beginning, when I went there, that was my heart, was I just saw the big gap between the girls just having a true friend, and just really, they were indirectly prostituting themselves for pads, because they didn't have money. And so because the moms they would want food over giving their daughters their monthly cycle materials. And so girls would prostitute themselves indirectly so they would have their pads. And so I was going through, so many girls were getting infections, and then they would just think, okay, I'm only good enough to be a prostitute. And so really, I started having small private groups. There was a group that I did that no one knew we met, because they were being abused in a situation, and then I had a public group, and just really finding their identity in Jesus and who they are, and that they don't have to be a prostitute. They don't have to, that's not their identity, that they can, there's other ways. And so that's how actually our PAD ministry, part of Hope for Restoration Initiative, our nonprofit in Uganda, we have Hope for Her PAD project. And so we have 3 single mothers that make reusable sanitary pads. And we use that. We go into Muslim schools, we go into prisons, we go into public schools, and we share the gospel before anything, before they get to hear a hygiene and sanitation talk. And then they get a free reusable sanitary pads. And so that was kind of my draw to Uganda for the girls. Was I just wanted to be an empowerment that they are worthy of love, that they are worthy of more love than the abuse that they have experienced, that Jesus's love is more than sufficient, and that they don't have to look and other means for that love, but Jesus is all the love that they need. And marriage love is beautiful, but their identity is not in living that kind of lifestyle. And so that's how that birthed in me, and my calling was to that. But then, like I said, as we developed, as we got married and I lived in Uganda full time, our ministry developed into a bigger project. And do you want to share a little bit?
Yeah, what pushed me into doing what we do, like as I shared briefly from the start, my growing up was a little bit of survival for the fittest. So with us home, we have what we call extended families, in that when my dad got a mental problem. Now, as I grow up and coming to the state, I realized he had dementia, which I think he suffered at a very early age, and coupled with some mental illness. So I was left in the hands of my auntie when I was 2 years. So being that we have so many extended families, someone just came and asked my aunt, "Hey, I like that boy. Can I take him?" So my aunt was like, "Take him." So someone took me away. I stayed with that person for like 10 years in a different area of my country, different language, different cultures. So I was there for 10 years. But one of the things that I want to appreciate God, He took care of my education and my well being, from the age of 5 to the age of 15. So when I turned 16, I came to a place where I was born, and that's when my struggle started, because yeah, this gentleman had really married, his family had grown, and the income was not there enough. So he said, "Can you go back to your people so they can take care of you?" So coming back to my people, nothing was there. So I had to survive. I had to really go struggle and get. So amidst doing all that, the life I lived and the struggles I went through as a young man, there are even things I still deal with even after getting married. It's because like I never had a male figure, someone to nurture and really lead me into the right ways. So when I grew up, there is something I always told God. I came to know the Lord at the age of 5. That is something I thank God for. In the house where my aunt that my mom had left me with, she got born again when I was 5, and it was a must. Whoever stayed in her house had to go to church with her. So that is an opportunity that I want to thank God for. So I ended up going to church with her. And then when I went, this gentleman took me. He was a church leader, so he took me to church with him. But at the age of 9, I made my personal decision to follow Christ. But I want to say, given my background and the life I had lived, I told God if He ever gave me an opportunity and gave me an opportunity of resources, I would give back to him by taking care of young men, by taking care of those people that really don't have an opportunity for that. And when we got married, we both felt like it was a time for us to give back and reach out to these people that don't have an opportunity, for someone like to provide, like my wife has said, a sanitary napkin for a young girl, and like how can they be in position to take care of themselves without indirectly going to men, for it. So we felt, you know, $2, $2 can save a girl, from going into the streets, indirectly. And the reason for that is some of them could use unhygienic materials like newspapers, they are like old clothing, and some of them could get accidents while they are in class and then they get shamed. Some of the kids like just laugh, they don't know how to deal with that. So coupled with a lot of things, we're like, as we talked as a couple, fast forward, we're like, what can we do about this stigmatization of these young girls? So we're like, we can do something. Let us identify women among the church members who are able to sew. So when I was in the States, I visited some friends in Indiana, and the women's team were like, we can put up something that is reusable. By that time, we didn't even know that they are reusable sanitary pads. So the women in Indiana, some church, they were like, let us come up with a package. Let us research. So they researched and realized that, oh, there were some reusable pads, because we knew we could not afford like monthly buying disposables because it becomes too expensive. So we shared some with someone here, and he said, if you guys feel this will help, I'm going to help by supporting that piece of your ministry that every month girls will receive pads. So the women in Indiana gave us like a prototype, start. And then when we went back home, we identified these three mothers, and then they were good in math to make measurements, and then they were able to start, making these reusable pads that we now have been giving out for the last 7 years.
Nope. It's been nine years now.
The last 9 years, like every month, every girl receives six of them.
6 pads. And
Six pads.
They last them a year. If they wash them properly and take care of them, they get a bundle, and we make it cute. They have a little reusable bag for it, so they can have it in private and take it to school, and they can come home and wash them. And so we teach them all how to take care of them. And so each girl would get a set of 6 pads, and the 6 pads cost about $22 now. And so $22 a month would give a girl a set of pads every month. And so that's one of our projects. And then since then we started a medical hospital. And so we use the pads to go into schools, prisons, like I was saying, and share the gospel. So before you get any of our services, whether medical, whether pads, whether whatever services we offer, they have to hear the gospel first. We go in and share the goodness of God, and somebody will share a testimony about what God has done in their life. And then we'll go into whatever topic, or if we're handing out pads, or if we're talking to the guys, because not only girls have problems, boys have problems. And so when we go into the schools, we go into the boys, we break them up, boys and girls, so then we have time of both sections. But we just really have the heart to empower the younger generation, as they don't have just that support system at home. They just don't have that person to just encourage them and be the cheerleader. And so that's what our ministry has done. And we've started really small. It was just 3 of us in the office in the beginning in 2014, and we have employed over 18 staff over the years. This last year has been more challenging for us. We are had a downscale. We lost some major funding, and so right now we're operating as a smaller team. But the big team is on call if there's a medical outreach or if there's a team that comes on ground to do a VBS with the church or something. Because we partner still with Calvary Chapel in Tebe. Our property is connected to Calvary Chapel in Tebe, and so right now we are in this season. We're not like. Look, as you see, we're here in the States. We're not in Uganda. We're here being advocates, and this is a great avenue for us to share what God has done, what God is still doing. We are working on my husband's citizenship green card process, and so that's why we're in the States for a longer season. We've not lived here together for this long before. We were fully in Uganda for the last 12 years. And so God has called us to come off the mission field, the day-to-day life of missions, but now he is calling us to be support raisers. We've always been support raisers. We're the ones that get up to the churches, get to the small groups, but now we get to be in day-to-day life with people. And so it's a season of us being advocates and trying to get more supporters around us, more churches, more small groups, more businesses to have the heart to join hands with us and serve Uganda by financially supporting the ministry that God is. So that's kind of the role that we stepped back into. We have a team on ground in Uganda, but we're the spokespeople right now, I guess.
So my question is for Robert. Robert,
Mm-hmm.
how do you learn how to speak English? Like who taught you how to speak English?
Yeah, like when we go back into how our countries were formed and colonized, Uganda was colonized by the British. So our national language, official language is English. And about the history of our country, Uganda is rich. It has a lot of good and neat history. We have over 52 dialects spoken in my country. And my mother tongue is the biggest language. It's called Luganda. Luganda is the most spoken language in my country. But like from kindergarten, we are taught in English. So that is how I learned English, because it is the day-to-day like language that is taught in schools back home.
You said a funny story. So when we first got married, because they were colonized by Britain, how he spells counseling is with 2 L's. And so we would be writing our newsletters and I'd say counseling is 1 L. So he would edit it and then I would edit it. I was like, but we're talking to the Americans. We're not talking to we don't have right now any supporters in Britain. We're the British people. We're talking to the Americans. And so it's so frustrating. Still to this day, he will still spell counseling. Was like, no, we're talking to the Americans. Counseling is 1 L.
Yeah,
that's just something that's funny.
So my first language is actually English, but because I moved to Puerto Rico, I didn't speak English at all. I had to learn how to speak Spanish, so I forgot all my English. And the way how I learned how to speak English was listening to Linkin Park and singing. And my wife would tell you, it's like there was times that she was like, I have no idea what you're saying, dude, but I was trying to speak English. Now I just use AI. Right.
There you go. So, were you born in Puerto Rico?
No, New Jersey.
You were born.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I was born in New Jersey. I lived between New Jersey and New York, and then I lived in Puerto Rico for 10 years, and then I lived in North Carolina for 10 years, and now over here in Washington.
Okay, that's awesome.
So, but. Yeah, that's how I learned how to speak English. I mean, they make fun of me sometimes. Like, what? And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, ours is just the school system. It's English, and it's like it's good, but like you find kids that are deep in villages, though English is the official language, it's hard for them to learn. And we have people in the country that are advocating like, hey, at least let us come up with at least one of our local languages and be taken on as an official language, because like with one thing that I've seen developed countries why they are growing so fast is because English is their first language and it's what they are taught in. For us, I know about 5 languages and now I have to choose and internalize. English is not my official language, so some concepts I have to take my time to internalize them and then practically, put them into use. But my mother tongue, things flow so well because this is what I know. This is my mother tongue. So some people are like, hey, why not us adapt at least one of the local languages and then we have English as the other language? But the country is like, no, your language won't make business outside in this country. So
Oh, do you speak any other language or just English?
no, I have like
No,
5.
he asked me if I speak.
Oh, this one here, my wife.
Katono, very little.
Oh,
I used to know a lot. I used to know more. I used to be able to go to the market and buy my produce, but our daughter is very good. The baby right now, since we're in the States, but we need to start speaking more Luganda to him. But our daughter can run circles around me.
well, so Kayla, she learned how to speak Spanish. She
Yeah.
took class in Puerto Rico, and it took her 6 months.
Yeah.
However,
Mhm.
us Puerto Rican, we're talking Spanish. It's like watching a race car.
Yeah.
So hard to keep up.
Yeah.
I had to learn this year, and I'm 37 years old, and it took me how to learn how to slow down because it was also making my English. I was stumbling my English. And just because I want to talk so fast, and I'm like, okay, I
Right.
gotta slow down
Yeah.
to be able to come up with the word that I want to say.
Yeah.
But no, and it's awesome, right? Like as I'm listening to you guys and listening to Robert, um, and your testimony, Pam, it's like, and how you guys are learning how to speak different languages. I'm here thinking, and I'm like, it's so funny because everybody who was doing the ministry, being missionary or whatever,
Mhm.
they all speak at least 2 languages.
Yeah.
And think about it, was Jesus when he said he was speaking with like 3, 4 languages when he was here on earth. Like
Right.
it's so awesome. It's like, oh, it makes sense. It's like, if it's meant to be, God's gonna give us the knowledge to say, hey,
Yeah.
you're gonna learn how to speak this language, and it's
Yeah.
like it's really, really awesome.
Amen.
So what language are you guys talking from? Like, well, you guys want the kids to know. Oh, they know both, right?
Yeah, no, we do English, 100%
We do
English. Yeah.
English.
Oh, 100% English. See,
Robert will talk to Victor because Victor's here with us. Robert will talk to Victor once in a while. I'll hear them, and he'll tell Victor, "Oh, go get this," or "Let's do this." Or if they're building something a couple weeks ago, and he just naturally went into Luganda. Oh, bring me this and do that, and that's more with him. Yeah.
yeah, I
Not
talk.
like
Kayla and I talk Spanish. Well, we don't want the kids to know. We're
Mm.
like Spanish, but the rest is actually English. I'm
Yeah.
like, and you see the kids are like, "Hola, Poppy."
That's
Uh,
cute.
so how's the folks doing back home while you guys are here? Working for Robert's visa citizenship. How they're doing back home? Like, are you guys consistent talking with them, asking them what they need and things like that?
the ministry team.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have cause like before we left, we sat with our board and then came up with someone that was taking over my position as the executive director. So handed over everything to the ministry leadership because as an NGO, you are required to have a board, which is kind of like an oversight for the operations of the ministry. And we, as the founders, of course, we become like supervisors to make sure that the vision of the ministry is kept in check and making sure that the purpose why the ministry was founded still stands and it still served. So
Yeah, so we keep in good
we keep in
communication.
communication with the operations team, and as 2 times a year there is always a board meeting At least it's a requirement by the government. Boards have to sit because we have to give what we call returns. And these are the minutes to make sure that, your organization is still operating and then it's still adhering to the vision and the mission for which you told the government this is what you were going to do. So we are in contact with a team on ground, and we call and talk to them, pray with them. If there is a need, they always reach out to us and then say, hey, this is our need right now, and this we need some guidance. So yeah.
Yeah, we're able to. And actually, Robert gets the opportunity in May. He's going to be going for almost the whole month. He's gone for 28 days. This is the longest he's been away from home. And so have left for a year and 2 months. And so he gets to go. He's going to surprise our sons and go back to the ministry and spend a month there to take care of some business and to do ministry, check on them. But like we said, we are financially just in a difficult season, and so we're just asking Jesus who He wants us to speak to, who He wants us to come in contact with, looking for other opportunities to meet in small groups, finding other churches to connect with, just besides the three that we are already under. And so yeah, it's just a season of just us just leaning on to God, and so. But our team is doing well as they can be. They miss us, of course, and it was just. But we knew that after about 10 years of being full time in ministry, that we would have to take this step to work on Robert's paperwork, and so we had prepared them the last 2.5, 3 years for this for us to be gone a longer time. So it wasn't just an abrupt, oh, we're leaving. We had built up the team, built up the leadership that we wanted to leave in place.
So what is the time that you guys think, yeah, we're going back? Like, is it next year or by the end of this year?
Full time, that's to be determined, because Robert was granted his green card, but now we have to be in the States 6 months of every year till he can become a citizen. And he doesn't qualify for that for 3 to 4 years. And so it's just a waiting process for, and so it's going to be a longer while than we had anticipated. We financially can't afford $20,000 worth of tickets every 6 months to go back and forth.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of establishing us here for this season, but then one of us, like I was there last August for a month, and so now he's going in May, and so just trying to figure out how we can get back and forth, one or all of us. Our daughter is dying. She misses the food so much, the local food, so she misses at least 2 or 3 nights a week. We could teleport her back so she could have her local bananas and her yummy food and
her fish eyes. She loves eating fish eyes.
Her favorite meal is fish eyes and pocho.
Hey, I said the best foods is back home. I mean, when we went there in January and I took all my kids to Puerto Rico, I mean, I told my wife, I was like, I'm allergic to like over 100 foods. And I told her, I was like, I'm going crazy. I'm going nuts. I mean, like, I'm eating everything. And I did. I was just like, here. Because I know that I come back here and I'm like, there's not food like home. So, so this is one of my last questions that I have for you guys, because again, I don't know how, like, if it's difficult over there, but I know, like, I did an interview with a gentleman for Canada, and he owned his own business, and one of the things for him, he said, was, I cannot bring Christ because my license will get removed. And he's like, I have to let the people start the conversation with Christ, and then I will speak about it. Like, is it difficult over there to bring the word, even Christ, to other people and do ministry?
No, like I said, like we go into Muslim schools and we preach the gospel. It's a free country. We can, right, as of right now, still to this day, which I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. We go to Muslim schools, prisons, and and we've had 3 teachers over the last 10 years give their life to the Lord from just hearing the gospel before we hand out our pads or before we do ministry. And so we have full access and full rights to say and share whatever we want. So that is one of the greatest blessings that we have.
And also, in addition to that, like being like maybe I can say 85% of our country is Christian, because we have the Catholics, the Protestants, the Presbyterians, the Baptists. We have a lot of, and the Pentecostals. So we have a lot of them. And when it comes to our families, like families are more like extended. So you'll find that I have Muslim family members and I have born again. So you'll find that there is no friction, not so much friction in between like the religions in the country because of the family relationships. But there are those that are really go extreme, but it's not hard like going into schools and then talking about Jesus and but we, like we said, what we didn't talk about much is the hospital. We were able to build a hospital, and like every time we went to the islands to give medical help, we could find people who were sick, and every time we came back with them, the government hospitals didn't have medicine, and we ended up having to pay for their bills while they're in the hospital. So, it became a burden on our hearts. What can we do about this? So in 2017, we were blessed by Jeremy Camp. He came to the country and then he saw the vision. He was like, hey, I'm going to support. He supported part of the funds, and then we were able to build a hospital. So we have a hospital there, and it is we want to start fully doing the maternity part. Right now, we were able to deliver a baby last year, so we want to have it operational and going. So with this hospital, people are able to come, and like she said, when they come, we have evangelists that are there sitting there to share with them the gospel, and then they are given the services free of charge.
And the blessing about the hospital is we sit on Lake Victoria. That's the second largest lake in the world. And so people from the islands, think about 300 people living on a football field, American football. And so they live out in the island, middle of Lake Victoria. And so they come on a boat. And so our facility is like the first dock. And so our hospital is literally on lake property. And so they, instead of going 3.5 miles up the hill, they have a good clinic to stop at, and we try our best to keep the medicines in stock, because coming from the islands to the mainland, has to be critical if they're making that choice. And so that's a blessing that we have, is that we're right on the contact of the water. And so we get so many emergency patients from the islands coming in.
Well, is there I would say a link that you guys have where if people want to, like, they feel in their heart, hey, I want to go into this link and just donate some money for you guys and things like that? Do you guys have a website?
Yep. We'll send you the link to the donation link, and then to the website, and there's videos. Our team, I think in January, did a 3-day medical outreach camp, and so there's updated videos and stuff as well, so you can see a 3-minute video of what a medical camp looks like, a day trip to an island. And so we'll send you the website and then the donation link as well.
And also the other opportunity we have as an NGO, those people that want to come for missions in Uganda, long-term missions, our ministry can give permits.
Work permits
For them. So we have those people that feel called to go long-term into ministry. We can give them long-term permits for 3 years, and they are renewable. And also the ministry is there, they can go serve in it. And we have our home they can start up from there. We have our 3 boys that I'm going back in May to fully adapt because we've been working on the process, and that is one of the reasons I'm going. We fully are going to complete the adoption process in May to have their last name changed into my last name. So it is something I would want those listening and viewing us to pray for.
Yeah.
One is Grace Nathaniel. There is Carly Davis and Benedict. So to just pray that the adoption process is accomplished. So we're gonna provide that donation link to you so that whoever feels called to support the medical ministry and PADS ministry and the operations of the ministry, they can be able to do it on a monthly basis or one-time gift. Yeah.
I've been playing with that, like the sound, like I can hear it, then it goes like super low, then it goes up, and I'm like, why is like, it's really weird. It's the first time, but
Yeah.
no, but hey, thank you guys for actually coming. Yeah, for those of you, let's actually everybody just continue praying for the 3 boys, Robert and Pam. Hopefully everything goes well over there, Robert, for you, be able to adopt the boys. That's something that is really awesome, and you don't get to hear that a lot. Um, and we're gonna continue praying for you guys as well too. Again, we're gonna be putting all information. The Pam will be sending to me, so I will put it on the description, so you guys can go click it. And if you guys feel that God is actually calling you guys to actually just help them, that would be awesome. Pam, Robert, thank you for coming. Hopefully we get to talk to you guys later after Robert's back trip from his homeland and giving us the good news.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless you. Thank you
God
for your
bless
time.
you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
All right.